He's done it again. He's done it again. He's made another tier list video. He's done it again. Alright, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another tier list video. Last time we were here, I literally reinvented the wheel so hard, I lost half my hair in the process, as we can tell here. Slick Jim Brim here over here, along with Fuckback Jack, as my other counterpart is right now. Here to bring you another tier list video, because hey, if you reinvented the wheel once, well, you've only reinvented it once, now you're just using the same wheel. But what we can see is that in the process of me reinventing the wheel and inventing the tier list structure, as we can clearly see here, I mean, just look at this. I mean, across the board, it has been a case where tier list videos have exploded in recent years. Clearly, just, you know, people trying to catch up on all the inventing that I've done, and hacking the YouTube system into believing that this was done before I made my video. I mean, look at it. Everyone's doing it. Everyone's doing their 2K tier list video things. Everyone's doing tier list videos in general, including this kind. Alright, now that I've found a few keck W's out of you all, let's move on to the actual meat and potatoes of today's video. Today we will be ranking, hey, I said it right this time, all the world champions in universe from 2K19 to present day, because I can't be bothered to do earlier than 2K19, because otherwise these videos would be 45 minutes long again, and I don't really think we want that anymore, do we? So, with that being said, we are going to be looking at all the champions here, including Johnny Gargano's chest. Lovely. To rank them, I couldn't think of anything punny for this one, so it's just an S to D tier, because I think F tier is a bit too mean for any of these champions. Also, I don't know if any one of them are going to end up in the D tier, to be honest. I'd be quite surprised if they did. The way we're going to do this tier is we're going to go by the day that they lost the world titles. So that means that the present world champions will be the ones done last, and of course the one world champion, who I'm sure you already know the opinion of, will be like halfway through this video. Alright, so we're going to start off by the first champion to lose his title out of these all. Also, if they're a multiple-time world champion, I will be considering both their world titles in this full list. So we're going to start off, I believe, with the Stinker. With Raw General Manager Sting, he will be a B tier to start things off. His second reign wasn't fantastic, I will admit, but the journey there was pretty good, and actually, him as the champion wasn't so bad in that it was... The second reign was about his swan song. He had said, from the day that he won the title, the day I lose this title, I retire. So there was that added element to Sting's world title reign where you knew he was going to lose it at some point, but obviously. But when he lost it, that was it. So we were just soaking in the end of Sting. And the only thing is that was a good premise, but the rest of the title reign didn't really have much going for it. The rest of the title reign was a bit flat. Didn't really compare to the first title reign. The first title reign, I mean, this was way back, because this was just at the start of 2K16. He was feuding with Finn Balor. There was a feud where he got Finn Balor locked into his demon phase, and Finn had been overpowered by the demon, and that was as a result of being unable to beat Sting. So it was a really powerful bit going on there between those two, and it kind of went beyond Sting as world champion. But the second reign was just sort of about Sting. And maybe you could argue he lost it too early, considering this was his swan song. Either way, it was alright. I mean, that's the best way to look at it in that last reign. It was alright. He had that one title match at that one pay-per-view that I didn't remember in the pay-per-view tier list video, link there. And then he did his swan song, and now he's the general manager of Raw. So I think things turned out well for him. Anyway, Sting, B tier. Moving on, up next, looking at everyone on this list, it is going to be... We're now in the Wrestlemania title losses, so it will be... Oh, boy. You. Alright, well. Let's try and get through this as quickly as we can. Marty Scurll, both title reigns, I'm putting him in the B tier. Why? Because even though he is the cumulative longest reigning world champion by days combined, he is... Well, I'm trying to make this not matter to real life, and this is difficult. Come back to me on this one. Yes, let's see, if we divide by the 4 there, if we carry the 3, divide that by the circumference of my arsehole, I've got it! Bingo! Demonetized. Alright, anyway, now that's out of the way. There we go. Now that I've got rid of the personal aspect of it, and I've just written down what I wanted to write down on a piece of paper that's got my video demonetized. The thing that I struggle the most to remember about Skill's reign is Skill's reign. I mean, I know he was world champion for a while. I know he had some really good feuds. I know he... The thing is I remember Skill's best feud being his first feud with Adam Cole, where it was loser leaves Raw for the world title. And after that, I just don't think it ever got as interesting. And this is, of course... I will go on the record and say around this time I was a really big fan of Skrull. I was a really big fan of Skrull right up until we know what happened about regarding Marty Skrull. I never really looked back at that time. Maybe it's got something to do with what happened with him in real life, but I never really look back at that stuff and go, man, he really was a great world champion, wasn't he? Because even though he had two quite... Well, the second reign was, 3 months, but the first reign was the longest until Roman came along, and it never really... sparked me. It never really popped me, which is interesting. So I don't know. B tier, I would say he was good but not great, but he should have been great. That's the difference, because his title reign, it was a long one. Alright, moving on to the next one now. It is Brock Lesnar. Brock goes in the A tier. Now, he is a two-time WWE champion. The first title reign really would leave him in like a C tier. The reason why I love the second title reign of Brock in a way is that he was Brock Lesnar, but he was there every month. He was what we knew of Brock Lesnar on TV, but he was just doing it every month. Someone would run at him, he'd just F5 him about a bit and win. And that was the fun part about Brock. And also what was helpful for Brock in a way was that he wasn't the main stage of the SmackDown at the time. Obviously the main stage was Kazuchika Okada. Okada was the, from the moment he lost that title to the moment he won it back, he was the thing of SmackDown. He was the story of SmackDown. Brock was almost the side piece, even though he was a WWE champion. But that just allowed Brock to just have good, fun matches and kind of just do whatever we wanted Brock to do, because Brock wasn't the focal point of SmackDown. It just meant that you could just kind of just stay safe with Brock, stay safe in a way that you know it's always going to work, and it always worked, and it was great fun. Brock is WWE champion, especially in that second reign. It was almost long enough to be in the top 10 reigns of all time. If not, it is just in the top 10 reigns of all time. And he just threw people around for all of it. So, yeah, I really enjoyed Brock's reign, and I enjoyed that, he was... The overlapping story was, of course, he was the one to start bringing Okada down, and then when Okada came back up, he couldn't beat him. And I just like that element of it. So, yeah, Brock Lesnar, A tier. In the words of Joe Rogan... Brock smash! Alright, up next, it is going to be Hiroshi Tanahashi. Oh, I'm sorry, Ace. I'm so sorry. Yeah, we did you dirty, and by we, I mean me. I have said this for a long time, that I never really enjoyed Tanahashi's reign, and I think I understood why I didn't enjoy the reign. So, I mean, as we can tell, I have a bit of a thing for heel champions in this series. If you look at the stats right now, just have a thing for heel world champions, I think we've gathered. And women's champions. But, Tanahashi is a babyface champion. No, he is the babyface champion. I've gone on the record, and I will continue to go on the record probably for years and years, and say Hiroshi Tanahashi is, in my opinion, one of, if not the greatest babyface of all time. But it just didn't translate well into the game. I don't know what it was, but Tanahashi just felt stale, dull, almost. Maybe, again, that could have been the booking, 100%. But he just felt uninspiring, was the best way to describe it. It just felt like he went out there, and it was... Nothing interesting happened with Tanahashi's reign. The best story was when he went up against Christian, and Christian was the underdog babyface instead of Tanahashi in that feud, So, and the reason why that feud was so good, it was because of Christian and his things, not because of Tanahashi. Tanahashi had enough time for it to be an interesting feud, and it just wasn't an interesting feud at the end of it. And that's pretty much it for Tanahashi's thing. It just wasn't interesting. I'm sorry to say it, but Hiroshi Tanahashi, C tier. Ooh, 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 ooh. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Yes. Seth Rollins, S tier. As I said about with SummerSlam in the pay-per-view tier list, do I need to explain why this is S tier? Yes? Oh, okay then. Alright, the reason why Rollins is S tier, it's simple. It is the reign. There are world title reigns. There are great world title reigns. Then there's the reign. Rollins is the reign. The champion. The ace. The face of the series. The everything. The GOAT. The record breaker. The Hyman Breaker. Probably not that one, but definitely the everything else. He is the champion. He is the figurehead. He is it. He is the top of the top. And it was this reign that showed it. The 2 ECW title reigns before that were already pretty damn good. Especially this first one was pretty damn good because it came a month after the breakup of the Shield and he just went and showed that he could do everything on his own. But this one was another level. It was Rollins as the heel. Rollins going first off to just, retire DDP. That's how you start a title reign. And then just winning and winning and winning and winning. Get to Mania. Win and win and win. Get Kenny Omega. Win. Take his TV title. 365 days. Oh, it's time. Break the record that Bobby Fish had held for the longest period of time. By the way, if Fish was in this list, yes, he would be an S tier as well. Don't make it out like Rollins is the only S tier champion. There is a difference between breaking the record that Bobby Fish had at 390 days and shattering it into 1,000,000 pieces so it is almost unrecognizable and meaningless. That's what 729 days did. To be 1 day short of 2 years, timing perfect by me, thank you very much, just goes to show that Fish's reign, for as great as it was, almost is just completely overshadowed in every single way by Rollins' reign. It was just 2 real years and he was never ever almost looked like he was never in danger for the most part of losing it, and that was what made Rollins at one point reach that level of greatness where you just rooted for Rollins. It didn't matter how good his opponent was. This was the guy who broke every single record. This was the guy who did everything. This was the guy who couldn't be topped. There was a reason why you always sided with him. There was a, in that Rollins Winslow aspect, but the kayfabe was there. He was just better than you. He was and still is, to my heart, the GOAT. And that's what made, of course, the moment at SummerSlam even bigger in every regard of that. And that's, I think, what solidifies himself as an S tier. You look at someone else losing the world title. You look at, like, Brock Lesnar losing the WWE title. It wasn't about Brock losing the title. It was about Okada regaining his moment, his standing in this in SmackDown and in this series. It almost didn't matter which babyface it was. People still would have lost their shit, not because it's this guy winning the title, but because it's this guy losing the title. That's what makes someone an S-tier champion, when you can't wait to see them lose. But when you see them lose, you don't say, oh, thank goodness that's over. You mark out. You lose your you-know-what in reaction. And that is why Rollins will firmly sit in the S-tier, SS tier. I am so dry down there now, it's honestly like the Sahara Desert. There you go. Seth Rollins, S tier, permanently. And now we move on to the guy who took the title from him, Johnny Gargano, B tier. Gargano's title reign was never about being champion, it was about the journey there. And the journey there is an S tier, but of course the journey there, he wasn't champion during. This is when he was champion. ECW was changing. It was a massive change for ECW. It was no longer about the Seth Rollins show. It was about this is what everything that ECW has to showcase for itself. And Gargano was the one leading it in. It was a big changing of the guard for ECW, and it's not like Gargano was the ace during the thing, because I would argue at that point in time there was no ace. Everything was new. For the first time, for an overwhelming majority of the viewers, there was a new ECW champion in town, someone who they hadn't seen, and Gargano was that guy. So there's that new aspect to it. But the reason why I put him in B is because as a champion, he was fine. He was good. He was decent. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't. Look, you're always gonna be. Whenever you're ECW champion, I think you're always gonna be considered to be the guy who has to follow the guy who came before you. And that's the problem with Gargano, is that he has to follow the Rollins reign. Does that bring him down a little bit? Absolutely. To use TW as an example, the ECW title prestige at that point was 100, and it didn't matter who you put the belt on. In a way, it was going to become a slightly less prestigious title now that it was on someone else's shoulders, because it didn't matter who it was. They couldn't live up to the reign of Rollins. And for Gargano, I tried everything that I could with Gargano. I made him. I had a really fun time booking with him as champion. I will say, he got to be this. It was great to book an underdog face champion, because of course on the flip side of things we had Okada, who is never an underdog. But there was just something where it was almost like, this is fun, this is fine, but it never felt really, really good or great or anything in that regards. It was almost a stepping stone in a way for Gargano. He was the getting us comfortable in this new period before we go to the other champion. It did exactly what it needed to do. Gargano's title reign. It did everything that it needed to do, and that's why it sits in B tier. It didn't need to do any more. It didn't need to be an A tier title reign. Not a bad B tier, just did everything that he needed to do, maxed out everything he needed to do, B tier. Right, moving on. The Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. This one is tricky. Very tricky. Yeah. Probably should be S tier. There's just something stopping me putting it in that S tier. Maybe it's again that Gargano situation where the journey there was greater than him being champion, and the fall and the rise of the Rainmaker, or whatever I've called it, being one of my favorite stories I've ever done, almost eclipsed everything that Rollins did that Okada did in that second reign. And of course, Okada did a lot in that second reign. He had a good few rivalries, but it almost felt at the same time that although Okada was WWE champion, it was safe. As I said with Brock about not pushing the boundaries, but that was okay with Brock because he wasn't the focal point of SmackDown. Okada was the focal point of SmackDown. It's hard to book Okada in an unsafe capacity unless it's with someone like Horan. It was safe, and it was good safe, because I enjoyed a few of the storylines, but it was never great in terms of that aspect to it. And I think that's what leaves Okada in the A tier in that regard. Because if I put the fall and rise of the Rainmaker at S, which I would in terms of storylines I've done, what came after it, again, not going to topple it, not going to come close to it, as again we talked about with Rollins. Okada definitely sits in the A tier for that reason. Should be S, given the list of it, given how he had two quite lengthy title reigns, but it will be A tier. Obviously, his title reign ended fantastically with the match with Rollins, but that almost didn't have anything to do with his title reign, if that makes sense. That was just them two having a great match, and it wasn't about what he was doing as champion at that point. But it's A tier. A little bit too safe. And that's what cost him in the end. Alright, so we have the 3 world champions left. Now, we're going to do this on the date that they won it. So we'll start off with Roman Reigns. A tier. Should be S. Could be S, depending on how much longer he's the champion for. He is the longest reigning World Heavyweight Champion in the series. There is, make no mistake about it, he is there. He has broken that record, and he is on his way. I believe there is a chance, by the time WrestleMania comes around as well, to have the longest cumulative days as World Heavyweight Champion, which he's done in just one reign. Roman Reigns is a fantastic world champion to book because he's almost like that Brock Lesnar, but the difference is he is the focal point of Monday Night Raw, but he's able to just be so fresh and so fun while you're doing it. There's just something about booking Roman Reigns. When Reigns shows up, you pay attention at this point. And that has just been a great part of him. And he's had some really good feuds. The feud with Tanahashi was really good. The feud with Taker was a callback to WrestleMania. The feud with O'Reilly was fantastic. I loved the match that he had with Styles. And now, he just... Everything that has been done with Roman has been done right. He's never looked like a cowardly heel. He's never looked like the best thing for Roman is that he's never looked like a world champion who's in trouble. He's always looked like a world champion who knows exactly what he's doing. And that is Reigns' biggest strength. He feels as if he is the controlling factor to Monday Night Raw. He feels as if he is the one who everyone's got their eyes on. But at the same time, it doesn't feel... Whereas ECW felt like it revolved around Rollins, Monday Night Raw doesn't feel like it revolves around Reigns in that everything is Roman Reigns related. And that is a great thing because the United States Championship division has almost excelled in a way. Where the guys who can't beat Roman... or who haven't faced Roman yet, are in that division, while Reigns just walking around basically flopping his cock on the table and just saying, I'm better than every single one of you, look at my dong, in the process. He is just really, really great fun to book right now, and that is the best thing that I can say about him. He is as close to S tier as I think any of these champions are going to get right now. Out of the 3 champions right now, Reigns is by far and away my favorite. Actually, by far and away is a bit of an overstatement, because next up is Tetsuya Naito, and he also goes in that A tier right away. They are neck and neck. Make no mistake about it now that I think about it. They are neck and neck. The difference between them is that Reigns' match quality is fantastic. Naito is storyline. Naito's title reign is all about story, all about being hated to the absolute extreme, and it is working so well. An easy thing to do in Universe Series is to cop out and just go with a dominant heel faction. But that's what is interesting about LIJ, in my opinion. They aren't dominant, they are cowards. Look at Naito as champion. He's had 2 title matches, and he has scumbagged his way out of them both. In the Fatal 4-Way at Anarchy Rules, he pretended to be hurt, so then it would be a triple threat match, or they hoped at first that the match would just get called off, but then, when everyone's down in the triple threat match, out he comes Destino to retain. And then the Rumble, steel cage, nowhere to go, looks like he's about to lose. In come LIJ. LIJ work in strength in numbers, but they never work in... They're not meant to be dominant, because they aren't dominant in a way. They work in the element of surprise, in the element of cowardice, and that is what makes him succeed so well, and that is what has made Naito succeed so well. He is the polar opposite. Even though him and Rollins were both heel world champions, they are the polar opposite of world champions. Rollins was a heel world champion who was basically step up, I'm going to beat you. Like a carnival act. Step up, I'm going to take you down. Naito is, if you step up, I'm going to run away, and I'm going to continue running away until you're not looking, then I'm going to hit you from behind and tell you how much I hate ECW. He is, in many ways, akin to Corin. There is no doubt about it. Naito's reign is akin to how Corin has been. The only aspect that I would say is different is that Corin isn't a coward. Corin will go on and face someone head on, but he is an anarchist. Naito is a coward and an anarchist. His whole story, of course, is heavily inspired by his Intercontinental Championship reign in New Japan. But it's been working so well. LIJ is so over. He is so over. The boos are fantastic. Everything is being done right with Naito. And that is why he sits in A tier. No problem at all. Nothing wrong with it. Loving everything that he's doing. Can't wait to do some more with him as well. With his upcoming ECW, of course. LIJ in the building. Good plug there. Finally on this list, we have the Blackhawk Tommaso Champa. Now, this one does actually kind of pain me. B tier. Yeah. I don't know what it is about Champa as WWE champion. I have to say, I don't know what it is. Because as I just talked about, Naito is about story. Champa is about story as well. But Champa is just not... He's not hitting. He's not smacking for me. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about Ciampa's reign that I'm not enjoying right now. I've tried to put my piece on the puzzles to what I'm not enjoying. I enjoyed the White build. I will say I enjoyed that stuff with Jay White with the mind games and all that. I don't know what it is about Ciampa's reign that I'm just not loving. It's just not clicking with me as much as Naito or Reigns' title reigns are. It just always feels like I'm... Just like, yeah, I could do that this week. But I'm not there going, oh, I love that. I'm just there going... That was okay. Maybe Ciampa does need to be in a few more matches. Maybe that's something that I'm getting wrong with these champions, is that Reigns, in a way, is the... Like, when Reigns is coming to Raw, you announce it and you tune in and you watch. Naito, you never announce because you never know when he's going to show up. Ciampa isn't showing up, and maybe that's impacting him as WWE champion. Maybe the fact that he's not there all the time, or when he is there, it's normally just in a speaking role now that's impacting him. That could definitely be the case. These guys feel like world champions at this point. Ciampa doesn't. And that's the big difference for me. And that is why he sits in the B tier. It's a pretty somber point to end on. But I think that's the point that I will... I mean, that's the last champion on this list. So there you go. There is the list. Right there in its fullest. I'll do the quick thing as I did with the pay-per-views, where I will snap my fingers, and before you know it, half the universe will disappear. No, I will rank these in... From A to... In the A and B tiers anyway, in... favorite to least favorite. So, there you go. Not much changes had to be made there, in all fairness. So there you go. That is the final list, in my opinion. This is how I would rank it. I am very sorry to Tanahashi once again, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. If you like this list, then be sure to let me know. Leave a like and a comment, and let me know what other tier lists, again, you would like to see. There are some good recommendations. If you want to do the greatest match tier, which I've seen a few of you throwing around as suggestions, be sure to let me know some matches that you think are the greatest matches of all time in this series, so that way I know almost what to make a tier list of, because I want it to be... I don't want it to be a big one again like with the pay-per-views, but I want it to be one that has a good bit of chunk to it, a good enough amount of matches on them to make the list out of. So yes, that'll do it for this one. I had a good chunk of fun going back through memory lane again with this, and kind of realizing where things are going wrong for some champions. Cough, Champa, cough. So there we go. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time for Monday Night Raw. But until then, thank you guys for watching. Take care, guys. And ta-ra. Oh yeah, and Murphs is still a...